Hello, good evening and welcome. You are tuned in to the Inview. We had the fanfare for the common man on here because the fanfare of the common man is for every single one of you that is actually standing up for your rights in a place that is undemocratic and not right, as we all know. Where do we start with this week's news? Well, we have so much to talk about tonight, and I have got an absolute plethora of guests tonight as well. Absolutely fantastic lineup. Let me tell you about them first. I hope you're all well out there, and I hope you all had a good week. I know it was only since Wednesday when I was last on it, but and of course it'll be Wednesday next week because we have got the Inview Connect. I just want to show this tie off because this is the new Tory party tie of the moment, where nobody can understand what's written on it because it comes literally out of their minds. And that's what they are, completely out of their minds. Psychopathics. That's what we have running this country. Who have we got on the show tonight? Well, you'd be very pleasantly surprised to know that we have Patrick Gamble, who is returning tonight at 7:15. So you've only got 14 minutes of me at the moment for News of the Week. The amazing Patrick Gamble is a well-respected visionary and psychic artist who's been creating his magical paintings for over 27 years. He's particularly well known for his spirit guide portraits and psychic readings. He also facilitates visionary art and psychic art courses. He believes everyone is creative in their own way, and the workshops aid in unlocking the magic and allowing it to flow. And as you would see, I had something different when I put this all out this week, which is going to be a commonplace in future, which is actually the websites of these people as well. So you can actually go on their websites, click on them, see what they're about and all sorts before they come on. 7:45 after Patrick, got the amazing Nicola Parkinson, creator of Cool Kids with Cool Minds, is on a life mission to teach people about children's brains and how to love themselves. And it'd be very interesting talking to her in relation to the lockdown scenario we're in. Cool Kids with Cool Minds, a 12-week meditation mindfulness program. Each section is designed to help your child recognize and identify their own emotions and difficulties. The course teaches them how to find their personalities and get to know their strengths and weaknesses as a person. She also is a spiritual being and a truth seeker. And then we have at 8:20 tonight, packed show tonight, the amazing Crystal Desprez. Past work's been on the radio before. Past work's been compared to the magic of Disney when broadcast on the BBC on radio and iPlayer. Her works on piano, lichen, and most recently Crystal's work with film scores. She is a very, very talented lady. And then at 8:50 tonight, we've got an international surprise guest. Wow, what do we all think of that? Absolutely amazing. Gemma's joined us. Hello, Gemma, and looking forward to today's show as always. Where do we start? Because obviously news of the week. What dominates the news at the moment? Well, it happens to be one subject, doesn't it? COVID, really. The one thing I'm really annoyed about with this whole pandemic thing is the amount of lies we are told. And the fact is we have a government saying now that we aren't going to be at this till at least the 7th of March. And then obviously they're going to check it on the 22nd of February coming up. We've got another month of this and a little bit and possibly a bit more, I feel. But where does it end? And you know, again, I'd like to reiterate that I'm not having to go at any NHS. I'm not having to go at any doctors, nurses, or anyone in the profession who are teaching or doing anything in helping people. I know they're all doing an amazing job. It's not them I'm getting at. It is the incompetence of the government that actually sit in their place. The figure that I spoke about on Wednesday, where we went past 100,000 figure, well, I've got a problem with it because, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion that I share with you because that's what this show's about, 100,000 deaths, where supposedly we haven't got any cancer deaths, we haven't got any heart disease deaths, we haven't got any flu anymore. That's gone, apparently. We haven't got anyone dying of pneumonia anymore. Saying that, though, there has been a couple of cases. And I'd like to give my heartfelt warm and thanks and to everyone that's out there working and trying to help Captain Tom, who is obviously in hospital, we learned tonight. Very sad news. But we have to put this in a realization state. And of course, when they feed you propaganda, they just feed you rubbish, basically, that is not true. The figures are not correct. Then figures are made up of very, 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 very mixed bag of people. Do you know, on average, there's a guy called Michael Yeadon. He's PhD and a former vice president, chief scientific advisor of the drug company Pfizer, and founder and CEO of the biotech company ZeroCo. He says, like several other scientists, doctors, and researchers, Yeadon has pointed out that there are no access deaths due to COVID-19. According to Yeadon, who has analysed statistics, about 1,700 people die each day in the UK in any given year. Many of the deaths are now falsely attributed to COVID-19. Now, you can call me a conspirator or whatever. I just want the facts and I want the truth. And I don't feel I'm getting the facts and I don't feel I'm getting the truth. That's why I talk about it. Everyone can say, well, they're doing their best and they're up there and we're doing this all for you. It's all for you. Well, is it? Because, you know, this is our third lockdown and the deaths toll still today is about 589 people. How are these people dying if we're in lockdown? And, you know, people are taking a little bit more seriously. There isn't as many people out there. There is people driving around in cars, but they're not actually out there doing anything. I will talk about that more on Wednesday's show. We have also got one of the worst things with this COVID thing and everything. And everyone can say, well, it doesn't mean anything. But it does, because when we wake up every day, you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You can't go and have a beer. You can't go to a cafe. You can't go to your favorite shops. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. And I'm a great advocate of pubs. And a lot of people say, yeah, well, I'm not surprised at that. But pubs and restaurants could stay closed until May under Boris Johnson's roadmap. What Boris Johnson wants to do with his roadmap is stand in the middle of it and get run over. The Prime Minister is said to be considering relaxing rules on exercising outdoors as first steps to easing lockdown restrictions, but gym, hairdressers and shops could stay shut until April. Where are we going with this? We have to, this madness has to stop at some point. And it brings me nicely on to what I was just talking about just now in relation to statistics, because there was somebody, and you try saying that word, statistics. There was the Conservative MP. They're not all bad, and obviously there's some very, very good people in Parliament as well. It's just unfortunately none of them are in cabinet. We had Desmond Swayne, who I've watched his interview on Sky News with Adam Bolton, who basically wants horsewhipping down the road. I've never seen somebody treat somebody with so much contempt, because Desmond Swayne went against the government and went against what he said. He actually admits that lockdowns don't work, but he said at the time, he hasn't told any untruths, he hasn't done anything wrong. And I do feel that at the time he stood up for common decency and rights. Now that's a rarity in Parliament, to be honest. It doesn't happen normally. And, you know, he, his own self has come to the conclusion, not that he's wrong, and he stands by what he did. But I have a lot of respect for him. And I know he's been vilified by the press. Hello, Jason. My Cusbro's joined us. Hello, Cusbro. How are you? All the way over in Hampshire. Gemma says heartbreaking about Captain Tom. Yes, it is. And Jason might even know our last guest tonight, an international guest tonight. As I said, we got Patrick Gamble coming up in roughly about sort of 5 or 6 minutes. But I'm going to get through some of these. Bereaved families could be asked to foot the bill for fines if a funeral breaches at coronavirus restrictions. An orgy with 100 participants at a warehouse in Paris was shut down by police. They're probably all there, to be honest, because it broke COVID laws. Cops raided the Libertine Party and arrested 3 people thought to be the organisers. Rose West has been invited for a COVID jab in jail. Now, some people say, why is she getting a COVID jab and not something else altogether different? Gemma says he's being forced to apologise for telling the truth, but the government isn't being forced to apologise for their errors. No, they're not. They're allowed to do whatever they like, and they run roughshod over everyone. They're not accountable like the vaccinations. None of the vaccinations companies are accountable for whatever happens, and we all do know, because we're out of the EU, or where are we? That's a big question mark. There is an enormous row brewing in Brussels with the British government and everything in regards to having vaccines cross over their borders. And today apparently is a record day for UK vaccinations. There's nearly 9 million have been vaccinated. I've said before, and I'll say it again, that in my opinion, it's only my opinion, I don't feel they're safe. I don't feel they've been tested. I don't feel they've been tried properly. And I do feel we're guinea pigs in a very, very dangerous game. We also see criticism of the European Union is mounting off it to try to stop vaccines, as just saying, exports reaching UK through Northern Ireland. It's interesting that Northern Ireland is in lockdown now, I think, to way into March. They had 6 or 10 weeks, and now they've got even more. And a lot of it is because of the controversy and trouble there will be over the border. And this has all been very quiet right now. And, you know, what's creepy about everything that's going on is somebody called Tony Blair, Teflon Man, Mr. Teflon Man, that is now looking a bit old, a bit older, don't we all, is now wanting to come back and give his opinion. Is anyone really interested in what Tony Blair's got to say? Why isn't Tony Blair, George Bush, and all his senior cabinet at the time, and the senior people around George Bush, why aren't they all in The Hague for war crimes commission? Because there is thousands of people died with bloods on their hands for them people that lied through their teeth of weapons of mass destruction. That's in my opinion, by the way. And of course, you know, this is great, isn't it? They put this in a newspaper this week. What's this? Gemma says they also announced they were going to put flu figures together with positive COVID cases. That's absolutely right, but they're putting everything together now. Jem Brooks says Swans allegedly pointed this. So yeah, the MP pointed this out, and they are telling him to apologise. Why? Because he told the truth at the time. Absolutely, because he had concerns. Because he's actually taken part in a democratic opinion, which is what they're supposed to do in Parliament. But no, they're not allowed to do that. They must run with the crowd. And their whips and all the rest of it, and all the other kinky stuff they get up to, and weird stuff. So meanwhile, in New Zealand, this interesting, New Zealand, of course, who shut all of the borders down and everything, actually had a rock festival or a music festival. Thousands of music fans partied away at a massive music festival. 22,000 fans swarmed the Hawke's Bay venue on Saturday at Hastings, not in England, on New Zealand, North Island. It was the largest gig the Kiwis been able to attend since the start of COVID-19. The country has a population of 5 million, has recorded only 1,927 virus cases and 25 deaths. Can I just underline that? The fact that 25 deaths they've had in New Zealand. Because they're probably telling the truth. They're probably telling the truth where we're not in this country. And look at these. Look at all these people really enjoying themselves. They're not social distancing. In this country, we're told, oh, we've got a social distance. And, you know, don't think that when you get a vaccine, it'll all be great and all be over, because it won't. Yeah, Gemma says, where's the weapons of mass destruction? Tony, I don't know. And I don't think he does either. And I think it was an absolute lie. There's a lot of people got blood on their hands from it as well. Moving slightly away from COVID before Patrick comes on. He's going to be on any minute now. We have got anti-HS2 protesters were last night being evicted from camp outside Euston Station. They're in trees and they're in the ground. And I don't know if anyone's aware of the collateral damage that is being done for a high-speed link from Birmingham to London. It's gone through historical heritage ground. It's gone over historical architecture that sits in the ground that's just being discovered by archaeologists. And what are they all doing it for? Because nobody's going to go on it for months and months and months. And it's costing millions of pounds. Police and bailiffs arrived before dawn to remove the eco warriors who have been camped out in tents and tree houses. And we have somebody on the phone, and I do believe this is going to be Mr. Patrick Gamble. Are you there, Patrick?
I am, Clint. How are you?
Hello, Patrick. How are you doing? Right on the button you are, you know.
That makes a change.
I know. It's fantastic. And you're clear as a bell tonight. That's brilliant as well. How are you doing? How's life in down your way and with yourself in lockdown and everything?
Well, I mean, it's very, very wet and windy here in Cornwall. It's kind of like, personally, it's nice that spring is kind of round the corner to us a little bit.
Yeah.
And try and stay positive within the lockdown. Try and stay busy.
Yeah. And isn't that is immensely difficult for a lot of people, I think, because they don't. I feel a lot of people are lost with themselves at this moment in time, aren't they?
I think it's very, very difficult, and of course with the isolation, and also if you get to go out, there seems to be an element of aggression as well.
Oh, there is huge.
Yes, I think there's there's people that are being very sensible, but there's also some people where the element of power kind of goes to their heads a little bit, and so we're dealing with a lot of different things out there. Yes,
I know, and the thing is, we're dealing with something invisible, and it's called mental propaganda. I feel that's screwing people's minds up, because even when they say you can go out there, people won't.
No, there's a. It's kind of like it's very difficult knowing the boundaries are also flexible within it all. So there's a lot of loose ends, and it's very hard. It's a very confusing time. There's an element of it that kind of like there's what I call these loose ends. Some of it doesn't tally up, and we're in this time now where some of it's extreme and all these things. So it's a very confusing time.
It is, and as you say, keep busy. I mean, obviously, because you're a psychic artist, you do many different things, and you're obviously painting like mad at the moment, I expect.
Well, it's a bit of an interesting one. I guess since March in the lockdown, I guess I used to be away with work such a lot, and I guess with the lockdown, I probably kind of 75% of my work kind of stopped because I was away doing workshops and private readings and teaching and all.
You were
going
all over the country. I mean, it's quite incredible the miles you took. You were in London, all over the place, right up the north as well, doing workshops and everything. I mean, how many? The thing is that with yourself, a bit like myself, because we love events, you know what I mean? We love going out to the people. We love helping them. We love advising them. How many people haven't got that right now are feeling it, that they need it? Do you know what I mean?
I know. It is such a, for myself, it's, even though I'm kind of in lockdown, I've had to fall back on my trade as a builder to some degree, and so because I'm self-employed, I still have a little bit. I mean, I'm based in Cornwall, obviously.
A lovely part of the world.
Yeah, it's a lovely.
You used to have a shop, didn't you? You used to have a shop in Polperro.
I've had a couple of shops actually. Yeah. I live in a very rural area where it's kind of which is great in this current situation. I've been a self-employed builder also, so I've been. My brother, he still has aspects where he can still go to work, and under certain circumstances.
You can't build someone's house at home, can you?
No, that's so. I've kind of been able to assist him in certain jobs as well, but for some people, there has been a lot of solitude, and it brings on, even with the current situation, it brings on elements of anxiety and depression and all those aspects that it's quite interesting. Even with depression, gosh, I guess it's part of it comes with life and living and life. Don't you think though?
Don't you think before? Sorry about him, but don't you think before even this happened, that people were in that zone already? Because I mean, as well as I do, when you go around fairs and people come along and you're doing their psychic art, you're helping them and all sorts, you're giving them advice and everything else. I'm sure you see a lot of people haven't got 5 minutes for themselves. They're doing so many things, and they say, well, I just managed to get out this afternoon, I really wanted to come and see you, but they're not giving themselves the respect, are they?
It no, not at all, Clint. I guess talking with people, there's people that are so busy that they're over busy and kind of wearing themselves out.
Yeah.
There's those that long to be busy, but they're stuck in life as well. So there's a lot of extreme things as well, where people wanting more, but they seem to be where life has got them at the moment. They just can't seem to get it. And there's those that are kind of have so much to do that they're possibly could be burning themselves out a little bit. So it's very hard to find the balance.
There is, and obviously one of them, and you'd be an advocate of this as I would as well. We should bring out our creative abilities. That is writing, reading, and painting, music, you name it, anything.
I think it's, the word, the creative, what you just said, it always kind of strikes a chord with me. The creative ability, the creative source, it's such a wonderful thing. And again, it can come from anything from writing to painting to music to dance. And also it doesn't stop there, because, the creative energy is something we can do, actually employ it within our own self, our own makeup. And it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah. And I mean, your artwork, I mean, when you go and you've got a blank canvas, and then at the end of it, you've got this amazing, I mean, absolutely phenomenal. You're a phenomenal artist, no doubt about that. I've known you a long, long time, but I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that for the sake of saying it. You are a phenomenal artist. No doubt about that, Patrick. But when you get a blank canvas, and are you getting messages about what you should do, or do you just splodge paint on it and then see what happens?
It could be. It can be. Sometimes it's just about throwing paint on the canvas and getting into it. Sometimes it can come from a dream. It can come from. I work with I don't actually hear things, but I get in contact with my feelings, and so I'm very a feelingful sort of connecting element, and so I work with a sense of feeling, if you like, and even with my when I'm doing my readings, that sense of feeling is not just for my paintings, but it's actually part of the psyche. It's part of our intuition. So the sense of feeling is really where I work.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had a picture done with you, and it's absolutely phenomenal. That you sit there and you've got a blank canvas, and you paint anything really to do with that person. Could be them in a past life, could be a teacher, could be a guide, could be anything, couldn't it? That's connected to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like, if we got into just say a person, I read into whether the person is old or young, or whether it's a male or female, and it's how it's kind of projecting the energy onto the board and all those things. Of course, then it may not be a person, it could be an animal.
Yeah.
So it can be of our planet, or it can be elements or energies beyond our planet. So to me, everything is just a communication, and it's trying to take that communication, and then I have to kind of put it into words and put it across to the person sat opposite. So it's a bit of everything in a way.
And you said one thing there that's really important, particularly in the time we're in. As spiritual people, we know there's much more than just what we are as humans, and that's where it breaks down with people, I feel, because it breaks down with people because they don't believe that they have themselves inside themselves, if that makes sense. Because they're just in their brain and in their 3D. When you open the realms, and as you know yourself, I mean, you must look back sometimes when you paint something, you think, wow. Do you know what I mean?
I kind of, I mean, sometimes I may go to someone's house and they have an original there of mine that I've not seen for maybe 3, 4, 5, maybe even possibly 10 years. And when I see that original, it kind of really reconnects me to that. So those things come into play, and it's kind of like working on that aspect. But as you said, I guess I used to be the part of my life where I was a complete atheist and unbeliever, and of course I kind of came into this, and then I have this like understanding.
What happened at that time, Patrick? What happened when you were an atheist and non-believer in anything? What happened to you?
What to come into this?
Yeah.
To come in. Well, you know what? I guess like many people, and I'm no different. My part of my life has been very beautiful, and part of it's been very challenging.
Yeah.
So life made me this atheist. Now, the interesting thing for myself is that I've been through many challenges in my life, but and all that done was pulled me away from any form of belief or something more.
Yeah.
But I came into a time when my life was very blissful, and that's actually when it opened up the door for me into spirituality. But the crazy thing, Clint, because I was in a good space and my background was non-believing,
Yeah.
I didn't understand it, and I didn't need it. So
No.
it kind of was a bit of a upside down, wrong way round in a way. It's but it came into my life when my life was blissful and not challenging.
Yeah, and as you say, the journey. I think we've had this conversation before, but I think it's quite important to reiterate it. The journey into being what we are and everything is not an easy journey. Do you know what I mean? It's not an easy journey at all. In relation to, we have many ups and downs and all sorts of things come along, as everyone does in lots of ways. But it depends how we deal with it inside ourselves. We've been, I'm sure like me, you've been to very low points. Do you know what I mean? And then you've been right up into a high point. And now, after going through what we call initiation gateways, really, in this reality, and to a degree, COVID is initiation gateway, even though, in my opinion, it's complete and utter fear porn that is destroying the country we're in. But obviously there's something out there, but with inside ourselves, it is about holding on to the balance of truth and everything else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of put it.
You carry on talking. I'm going to get a picture. I've got one of your pictures here, actually. Patrick.
Yeah, it's very important. I guess a positive mind or a positive thought is only really truly needed when life is challenging, and that's the hardest time to hold positive energy is when life is upside down. But it's the time that we really, really need to promote or hold a positive thought.
Yes, and that's and it still goes back to the same thing, because we're heading. My God, if this ever comes to an end, which it never ever seems it does, but it will at some point, we will be hopefully back out doing events. They're going to be rammed. People will be ramming to get into the events to know what's going on, what they've been through, and all the manner or other things as well as the mental damage that's been done to ordinary people. And that's without the loss of living, loss of earnings, and loss of people as well.
I know. It's such a, I guess before COVID-19, before March last year, life brings its challenges anyway. And we have life is beautiful and we have beautiful times, but, we all experience the challenges and the difficulties then with COVID-19 on top of our own personal challenges as well. It's been for some people, my goodness me, my heart goes out to them for the challenges and the struggles that they have been through. And and I sometimes I meet people and I really don't know how I would cope with what they're having to deal with, and it's kind of like it's so difficult.
Yeah, it is, and it is holding on to, obviously, because self-employed also it's about still need to earn some money, obviously, because there's no fares or anything, and obviously you like a client to be with you to do portraits and things like that, but I presume you can do that if somebody contacted you.
Yeah, I do some obviously by post, as I call it, distant ones. But yeah, I guess for myself, I'm quite adaptable. I
know what you mean. I come from the same background as you. I was in the building as well, and it's you always turn your hand to what you know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also about having a plan. I think it's such an healthy thing. Not all plans succeed, of course, but I've got another plan, and then I've got another plan and another plan, and it's kind of like it's quite a healthy thing because it's like doorways, and sometimes sometimes not everything works out for the best, but it's like stepping stones.
Yeah.
It takes us from one situation into another, and it's part of a pathway, if you like.
Yeah, and it's your own pathway, and it comes down to the soul birth of yourself. I mean, many people really thought about coming back here again, because we've all been back here lots of times, and we did for lots of different reasons. But we also knew that there was going to be something like this happen, and obviously we're here not just for ourselves, but for the younger generations as well that are coming up, that are suffering immensely at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very hard, and I guess in a way, they are the younger ones are the future, and those elements coming into play. I guess in a way, it's allowing it to unfold, and and holding this positive element, for the good of the good shines through, and that.
I was going to say, with everything you've been through, for people out there, and a lot of people, obviously, you're very well known in your field and everything. How the first thing you would say, well, how do I hold on to that positive? How do I hold on to something within inside myself? With what I see? Well, basically, don't watch it for a start. Don't watch anything that's bad for a start. But it's better to be forewarned than forearmed, But it is about giving out a solid message, isn't it?
I guess for me as an artist, I put out a little thing on Facebook or YouTube a week ago, and it was the power of vision, and it's something that I've come to learn with. As an artist, and being able to hold a vision or an image, because holding an image or holding a vision is the same thing, and we read it in books and things from the past, and that the power of, but the power of vision is about holding for me, I kind of work with words, but I'm not the best. I don't read a lot, and I don't absorb things very well by reading. But I've got this image in my mind, or I have an image in my mind that is always positive. And it's the power of thought, the power of thought, the power of mind, and it can work in a very, because it odes the positives. It helps us. It helps me. And overcome personal challenges when I'm going through them, because if not, we can get so involved in the negative that it can swallow us up a little bit.
Yeah. Do you feel that in a past life you were an artist?
Yes, it's quite an interesting thing, because even with one of my spiritual guides, that he doesn't show me himself. It's a bit like a blurred or out of focus image that I see of him. Yes, there is something. There's something definitely related to the past, even though I'm not quite sure what. But there is something very strong with one of my guides. And I would probably have to say there is connections somewhere within my past life.
No, definitely, I would say there is. I just want to interrupt you a minute. Sorry, Patrick, but
no
we get these spammers and hackers that come on here, and Jamunu Atoda, if that's your name, can you please not ask anyone that for readings on here, because it's not your platform and you're not meant to be here. You're not very spiritual if you're coming on this platform trying to take people and trying to purloin them into having readings with you. So can you please get off this channel, all right? Or I'll ban you. Sorry, Patrick. It's just you get these people, don't you? You know what it's like.
Yes, even in this troubled times, there's a lot of, all this, people ringing up and pretending to be certain ones and demanding money, and there's so much of it going on, and yes, it's not good.
No, it's not. It's completely wrong, and I'd just like to say, if I haven't said that name right, I do apologise. Jamu Atoda, you have to leave right now, because nobody's interested in your readings, right? Because that's not what this is about. This is about the show and people's opinions. So your opinion is not valid, because you just want to take people away for your own self-gratification. So you want to bugger off, basically. I want to show this picture. I don't know if you see it or not. I don't know if you'll see it.
No, I can't. I've just got my phone.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I'm holding up the picture you did for me. Oh God, I don't know how long ago that was. It's some years ago now, wasn't it?
Quite a while.
And that was a picture with it's Atlantean. I do believe it's an Atlantean guide, or even Atlantean life I had, and it's got the he's got a band around his head with an eye in the center of a pyramid that's yellow or gold, in fact. Quite interesting. But it's fascinating watching you do it. And you know, it's the energy you burn is absolutely massive, I'm sure, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of like, it's quite an interesting, because in my beginning of doing this work, it used to be quite draining and quite demanding. But I guess when I was learning or finding my way into this, it was what I call the elders within the movement. They used to say to me, Patrick, does it tire you? And I used to say, yes, it exhausts me. They used to say, you shouldn't be working in that way, because that's not right. It shouldn't be taking your energy. But no one actually told me how to kind of prevent that, or what was my next stage. And many years went by, and I guess I reached a point or a time in my life where I guess I got more involved with energy flows, and so I kind of stumbled upon a way where my energy isn't drained. So, you know, whether it's a long day, I mean, when I'm in full fling and I'm traveling around the country, sometimes when I start to paint and I'm at a show or a private venue somewhere, I sit down to paint possibly at 10 o'clock, and it's quite often that I'm still sat in that chair at 6 o'clock. I don't get up at any time. I just sit there unless I've got to show the person out. But I seem to have more energy at the end of it than what I had at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
it's almost self-generating, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, Clint.
And you also, I mean, what I think are absolutely beautiful, your Oracle deck of cards, which are all pictures you painted. Absolutely phenomenal they are. And I mean, I bet you couldn't even tell me the number of paintings you've done over the years. I bet there's no number, is there really? They're all babies as well, I should imagine, to you.
Well, in the beginning, I mean, people wanted to buy, like for the vision work, people wanted to buy paintings, but I couldn't sell any of them. I mean, in my early days, when I guess the years went by, and I kind of accepted the fact that it's time to let some go, and I was ready then. But I gave some away, and some went to charity. I sold some. But yes, it's kind of, I had to reach a certain stage before I was able to do that, because they were like children, and I guess I still had some learning to come from them myself. But because the years went by, and I was painting a lot, my house was filling up with paintings.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting with your backgrounds, though, because it says here as a child, you spent a great amount of time in the outback in Australia.
Yeah, I was 11 years old. I'm one of 6 children. My mum and dad. My dad decided that he wanted to emigrate to Australia, and it happened, and we took off. So we spent a number of years in Australia. Then Clint, we returned to England. I mean, Australia was a wonderful one. It still is wonderful, adventurous country. Very young country still. For discovery, if you like. But it's so vast, so big, and it's got it's the amount of different animals out there, and it's just a sheer vastness.
Yeah.
Wonderful place. Wonderful experience there. Then we returned to England, and we were here for 2 to 3 years, maybe close to 3 years, and then my dad got restless, and then we took off to South Africa.
Wow.
And we lived for a period of time. My dad always seemed to get into a bit of strife and trouble wherever he went. Actually, it was a bit. My dad should have been born 200 years ago. He kind of was. He was a little bit like, he adventurous, but I mean, some of it was.
He would have been good out in the jungles, wouldn't he, in the Amazon?
No, absolutely. He was kind of like he was a plumber by trade, even though he left his trade. But when we emigrated, he went back to his trade. But he had a number of different jobs in Australia, from working on a sheep station to cattle station, then working in the mines. He could put his hand to a lot of things, and yeah, so we ended up in South Africa in a very big mine there, and then he got in trouble and lost his job, and which was it did happen with Dad a little bit.
How old were you at that time, Patrick?
I was probably, when we went to South Africa, then I was about, I'm just thinking 11, 15, about 17 when we went to South Africa.
It must have been very exciting. It's a good age to go there as well.
It was very exciting until my dad lost his job because he went on a contract. Then we ended up in the bush. You see, we ended up in the outback of Australia. Then we ended up in the bush of Africa, and we lived. I mean, we ended up with nothing. We at one Christmas time, the natives, the Africans, they boiled up pumpkin leaves for us to eat because we had no money, no food, and I guess it was a lot of great stress for my mum. I mean, my mum coped. But we did, and it gave us such a. I mean, looking back, it was such wonderful teachings in a way. Not necessarily that I'd something like I would like to relive, but but it was quite an adventurous way of life.
Yeah, unbelievable, and that's obviously all that Africa and Australia, places you've been in past life anyway, and there. It's not just, and that would be your father as well, I feel. Shad says, evening, Clinton, Patrick, and others. Just been having a browse on Patrick's art at your website, basically, and says, wow, so powerful pieces, beautiful, powerful pieces.
Yeah, thank you.
And they really are. And I know you sell prints of them as well as the artwork. And I know on your website you've got your shop and everything there, and people can still buy things from you, in lockdown, can't they?
No, absolutely. I mean, I do try to paint in quite a dynamic way, and I do try to, I suppose, provoke the mind. Yeah. It's kind of to stir the mind, if you like, from the logical mind, to stir the logical mind, and to tip the mind into some other line of thought with most of the paintings, not all of them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I see you last, which is ages ago now, but it was also, you were doing a lot of symbolism and symbology and all sorts of that, and like Merkabahs and things like. Cause you had a picture there, it was absolutely blew my head away.
Yeah, I guess it's something that was always been inside of me, even though for a large part of my life I didn't, or still don't understand in a way.
It doesn't matter, does it? You don't need to understand it. We just do it.
They do. Just do it. It kind of came to the forefront, if you like, and I got really involved with symbolism. And of course, symbolism has been used through the ages, and it's and how a symbol can be charged with a thought or energy, or to carry energy of different things. So it kind of got me all into that in a very big way, and it came through into the arts. So it kind of took me into that part of learning, part of it, some of it. Yes, it's fascinating stuff.
Mandy Collins says hi. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are listening or watching that has actually been to you.
Manny, yes.
For artwork or whatever. And obviously, the big things like, a lot of people on here would have been to the Healing Weekend, which obviously hasn't been on and probably won't be on this year either, I wouldn't think. I don't know about you, but I'm itching to get back out there and meet people to help them to do whatever, you know what I mean? And I do think there'd be an influx once that starts, if they can get outside the door, with what's happened.
No, absolutely. I think we're all kind of like, it's needed as well, that social contact. And,
we can't live in rabbit hutches away from people and not do anything. It's detrimental to ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And it's very difficult because, I guess in a way, the element of fear, or the generation of generating the fear, and of course we all have to be cautious, we all have to be careful, we all have to have an element of common sense within those things. But it's kind of like it can be, for some people it's overwhelming, and it's very difficult.
It's breaking a pattern that exists here in this reality. That's why I do the show to bring people voices, you know, to bring
No, absolutely.
to bring out people like yourself and also all the people that come on the show, because you know we live in a time that people need a connection. Do you know what I mean? With people, it's we can't just, it's people that say, well, I don't connect with anyone. You have to. It's part of our interaction as a human being and as a soul within, inquisitive soul that we carry inside.
No, it's very, it's something that is, it's part of our makeup. It's something, it's so healthy, you know, to have that,
Yeah.
and it's so needed. And hopefully, fingers crossed, even though, you know, we know that this is going to go on for a little while, but fingers crossed that things do return to some normality, whatever that means. But where, you know,
when the truth comes out and they're all sacked, yeah, hopefully.
Absolutely.
You've been amazing, Patrick. Thank you very much for giving me your time and all sorts, and coming on the Inview. I know you're a great supporter of the Inview, and myself, you're a good friend as well. And if people want to connect to you, they can go to your website, www.patrickgamble.co.uk, and on there you'll find out all about Patrick. You can, like Shaz, you can look at his artwork, and there's a shop there and everything as well. So, you know, you've been amazing, young man, as always.
Thank you, Clint. Bless you now.
And you know, I know you sent to me, well, what are we going to talk about, or are we just going to wing it? And I always say we just wing it. I haven't got any questions for you, really. It's whatever takes the mood at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Natural flow.
Absolutely. That's real. That's real.
Well, thank you to all your listeners for listening in, and bless you, and thank you, Clint, for asking me to come on again.
No, that's great. And in a couple months' time, I'll be coming back to you. Hopefully, we're going to be in a different place than where we sit now.
That would be great.
Yes.
That would be absolutely great.
Shad says it's so nice to hear different voices, refreshing to my ears. Oh, that's very nice.
Oh, lovely.
Well, thank you very much, Patrick. We will speak again very soon.
Take care.
Yeah, and you.
Bless
and
you
great
all.
love to all of you, everyone. So
thank you now. Stay safe.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.
There's Mr. Patrick Gamble, what an amazing artist. And if anyone else comes on that is like what Jamu Atoda, I think that's the name, that actually, I don't know if it's a man or woman, but somebody that comes on and is trying to deliberately tote people for readings and all sorts. I don't want anyone like that on here, because you're going to get banned straight away. So this is not a platform for you. All right. And, you know, I take a very dim view of people like that. Matthew John. Hello, Matthew John. How are you doing, young man? He says depopulation is until 2025. So when's enough? It was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That turned into a year. I wonder when people will have enough to wake up fully. You know, I agree with you. And there is depopulation program. It's been going on for a very long time. That's now turning up and cranked up a few gears. I do personally, I feel that there will be a closure on this. You know, yes, they all have everything at their disposal and all sorts, but I do feel that there is enough people that is going to come up against this. And I do feel that there will be massive civil disobedience if this does not break, because people, they're going to be cornered animals, you know. And as Matthew knows, and I know Matthew was on a show last week, with his Spirit Unity Network, it is about creating community. It is about talking to each other. It is about listening, and it is about taking things to another level. And obviously, when we're all segregated from each other and we can't speak to each other or anything, then, you know, what they're doing is they're stopping the freedom of speech. They're stopping people gathering. They're stopping people. In other words, what they would see would be there to conspire against them. Well, they don't need to worry about that, because we're all doing that in the background here on something called the internet, which exists. It's great to have you on board, Matthew. We have got coming up next, at any point, we might give her a ring, actually, if I can find a number. We have got Nikki Parkinson, Cool Kids for Cool Minds, coming up next. Let's have a look. find it 1 minute. It's live. You can see this is completely and utterly live. Find it on here. Here we go. Let's give her a ring. Ah, here she is. Here she is.
Here I am.
Hello, Nikki. How are you?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you.
It's fantastic to speak to you. I haven't spoken to you for millenniums. It's been a long time.
Oh, gosh, I know.
How you been? How you been in lockdown and everything else? Has that all been okay?
Yes, I'm able to work still. Yeah. So as an osteopath, I can be a key worker. And so, it's worked really well. I've just worked from my house. Where there's only me here, so it's at the minute it's working okay. So I've still got enough work, and so everything's going quite smoothly. So
and of course, I mean, we know each other a long time, and it's fantastic to link up with you again.
It is,
and I know that originally I'm going to try and say this word, but I'm not going to be very good at it. I don't think osteopathy that you do in your clinic in Wiltshire, but you know you've been working on something else, and I've seen you a few times on your films in relation to something that I feel is so important, because this is a generation that's going to be completely lost in our reality. I feel in our children, our kids, and nobody seems that I mean, we still live in a time that kids haven't even got laptops to do schoolwork. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. I know, it's terrible. You're right, though. You're right. Everybody is now beginning to talk about what the children's mental health is going to be like. So, like, for example, today I went on an osteopathic paediatric mental health day, and the amount of all of us that are talking about how many children we're all seeing with mental health problems.
Well, they don't understand either. They don't understand they can't see their friends or anything. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah, they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to react to that. Whereas when you're a bit older, like we are, you kind of, to still keep your mental health in check, and what to do and how to still keep in contact. Like we're fine because of all our beliefs. We sort of still carry on fairly as normal as we can, don't we? Because we know what's going on with the government plan and everything.
Well, pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic, But my God, I've termed something that a lot of people have, and I've called it disaster syndrome. Everybody's got disaster syndrome because the government applying so much fear into people, like you were just talking about with Patrick, that people don't do anything, they don't go anywhere, they don't see anybody or leave their house. Or
I think it will come to a stage where when they can, they won't.
I know, I do. Yeah, I do. That's what I worry for people about. Yeah, that's what I worry about. Yeah.
And obviously, what you're looking at here, because obviously the next generations, that's the children that's growing up, but it's also the adults that are teaching them as well. That, really, I mean, we're looking at an absolute uptake of people that are in very difficult situations in family life, where I'm sure, I know a lot of different things you do, and I've seen online when you're doing them. I think they're brilliant, but there's a lot of parents that will be what I call muggles or sheeple people that won't be interested at all. Oh, don't worry about doing schoolwork or anything today. Don't worry about it, and just forget about it. And I'm going down the supermarket, go and buy another 16 cans of special brew or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the world we live in.
It is. You're right, because for some people, that's the only way that they know how to cope. They don't know how to live in this world because it is so screwed up now, isn't it? That, even some of my spiritual friends are like struggling this time, and you can tell they've come right down to sort of 3D, and they're not resonating on 4D or 5D at all anymore. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just getting to too many people. So
it's divide and conquer, isn't it? Divide and conquer. Even it actually shows it brings the chaff from the wheat, or whatever they call it, in relation to people that are spiritual, that are actually suddenly all of a sudden not that spiritual because they've got into their body and sit in worry.
Yes, they do. And I get it, they might not have so much work coming in, and, we all need that sort of gremlin thing called money to live off. We all need that. As much as none of us sort of want it, we'd all prefer to sort of resonate higher. But, it is a worrying time out there for a lot of people, and this fear that you can sort of is really palpable, that's going round, is so unhealthy.
The thing
so I am trying my best to sort of plan.
Absolutely.
Please don't become fearful. Please just get through it.
Yeah. And you have to. And what you've been doing online, and what I'm seeing is you're giving yourself the outlet to do that, obviously, and actually helping other people. That's why I do the show, and I'm like a lot of people. I'm still working because I'm still doing readings and stuff like that. So it's not a case that there's nothing to do. There's so many people to talk to. Matthew John says, loving the tie tonight. This tie, actually, Matthew, sorry, I'll come back to you in a sec. This tie is the new conservative tie, because nobody can understand any writing on it at all, because those squiggles are inside the cabinet's head. Matthew says, we're not taught the law or our rights at school. I wonder why. Fear is everywhere, and it's mainly because of our lack of knowledge. And he says, how do you think they've kept the status quo for so long? Yes, they have, but they have. I think they've gone too far now, to be honest.
I think they've gone too far. I think they've gone really too far. So I've been being sent things as a key worker. I could write to the doctor and request a vaccine, and I would get one.
Yeah.
But of course, I don't want a vaccine.
No.
I
don't blame you.
Yeah. So I've been sent a lot of things saying, the vaccine's not mandatory. This is how you word it. If you don't want the vaccine, and blah blah blah.
I've been inundated with texts from my doctors that's never shown interest in giving me a flu vaccine before. Wanting me to have one. Yeah. I've had 5 or 6 texts saying, please, your vaccine, your ordinary flu jab, which of course we don't need one because it doesn't exist anymore. It's like pneumonia doesn't exist anymore. It's all about COVID
now. Yeah, with no flu. Yeah.
But I do feel particularly, and I know the battle you have in relation to getting the parents to understand the dynamics of actually doing things different with their children. And that's not scolding them or smacking them or whatever. No. That's about speaking to them and treating them with respect.
Yes, absolutely. And just understanding how things can be done on a different level, that, people are so ingrained in how we've always done things, and family patterns pass on, and it's just trying to break those habits, just with tiny new habits, not having to do a massive, sort of kind of change, but just changing your mindset. And it's just getting people to take control of their own mind and be more conscious about what you think and how you behave, what you say, how you act, and just trying to get it out there really as much as we can.
Yeah, and obviously that's very difficult if you've got, and I mean this quite nicely, but if you've got someone like God, I forgot her name now. I can easily forget all the rules names, to be honest. But if you look at William's wife, Kate, she's come on there and says she struggles. Well, I find it very difficult that she even teaching her children anything, because she would have people around them. So I mean that I don't believe for 1 minute. But
no, I don't either.
Because they have everything to wipe, anything to dress them down to everything. So I mean, I can't see her sitting down teaching her children. But in an ordinary family, and say for instance you live in Liverpool or any of the big cities, and you're in a big block of flats, and you're right on the top floor, and you've got 3 children, and there's a couple there that really realistically, because a lot of people are, as Patrick said earlier on, I've noticed a lot of people more aggressive. A lot of people are sleeping. When they're driving, they're sleeping. When they're walking, they're sleeping. When you go to the supermarket, they're sleeping. And then they wake up. If they get too near you, it's like you've got leprosy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And children are seeing this. So children are sort of picking up the vibe of what people's behaviour is like. Yeah. and it's sort of telling them there's something to be so fearful about that there really isn't. We're going to get through this. We'll get on the other side of it. Everybody's got a future, but they don't want you to think that, do they? They don't want you to think that at all.
Well, it's almost like they're breeding a next generation and generations after that, because I mean, the way they're talking, they want to keep bringing pandemics back in all the time. But it is very much down to keeping a status quo to keep these children non-educated, basically.
Oh, my
feral.
God,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And all he bangs on about is we really got to get the kids back to school. We got to get kids back to school. I mean, what I say this all the time. We're in lockdown. We still had 589 people die today from COVID, apparently. Apparently, I don't believe that for 1 minute, in my opinion.
No, I don't.
But there's 1,700 people who die of that every day in the UK for all sorts of different reasons. But
absolutely,
there's got to be some truth here. And unfortunately, the shadow people, and that I'm talking about Chris Shitty and bloody Valance and all that crowd that are all paid vast amounts of money by Pharma to hold us all like puppets, I think is wrong, because actually it's not just us, it is the children. The children want to go to school. The children want to meet their friends. They want to interact. Where are the days? We're going to come into days where they won't even be able to hug each other.
Oh my God, I know. It's going to be ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. It is. And you're right, it is all about getting the vaccine out there and getting all these vaccines in, because they're all making however much money. So like the top 4 advisors about coronavirus to the government, one of them is a university, and the other 3 are pharmaceutical companies. So the university will be funded by the pharmaceutical companies for the research, and the government's due to make a lot of money from the pharmaceutical
companies. Of course they are. Plus they are personally as well, because you've got people like Matt Cock and Gove and Boris and all these people that are all involved with the pharmaceutical companies and have interests in them.
Yes, I know, it's shocking.
They're multi-millionaires sitting around a table laughing.
Yeah, and then they go home, and then they're able to sleep at night, knowing.
Because they're on a different agenda to us. They sacrificed their soul a long time ago. These people. They did. They're not rational soul people. They're not people with any feeling or emotion. They're people that lie through their teeth.
Yeah, absolutely. They are. And
what did it do to the children on the day that Boris said, they can all go back to school, and then and they go to school one day, and then they tell him you can't go to school anymore?
Well, like, what the hell was
that about?
Yeah, that was very mind controlling, wasn't it? So he let everybody go about their business normally for one day, and then just crashed everybody. And the morale must have, in so many parents and children, must have just fallen through the roof. It was just awful. I thought that was really mean of him, because he knew what he was doing. He would have known that like 2 weeks before Christmas.
The problem with Boris is he's got no idea of detail.
No.
He's just a knee-jerk reaction person. And I mean, Gavin Williamson, who runs education, basically should be put on a desert island and left there, really, because he'd probably make a good job of it.
That is so true, honestly. Oh dear God.
But I mean, to give us an idea in relation to working with children, for people out there got children listening and watching right now. What sort of short, sharp tricks can you do with them to help them and all sorts? I see your stretchy band that you have. That's a really good idea.
That's a really good idea. So what children end up with is just basically too much of the bad adrenaline in their brain, panic and fear, and thinking from their fight or flight system. So you can't reason with a child when they're kind of like that. You've got to just give them something to do to get that adrenaline out of their brain. And as soon as you get them to start doing any form of exercise, like the stretchy band that I keep telling everybody to use, because they can use it in between lessons inside the house, then it basically burns off all the toxins from the brain, gets rid of all the bad adrenaline, gets the endorphins going, and then gets some good oxygen in their brain. So your child can then go into their logical brain and get perspective on life and calm down and listen to their lessons and then handle staring at a flipping screen all day.
I know.
And so, so it's a
and you've got to question what they're even being taught, haven't you?
Yes.
Because you know they should be being taught meditation. They should be taught wellness and mindfulness at school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as Matthew says, they should be later on in years be taught law.
Yeah, you're right. What their human rights are.
Yeah.
What about all these vaccines, what they need to do. Yeah, absolutely. Because we're brought up thinking that your health is not your responsibility. We're brought up thinking that your health is actually the responsibility of the NHS. And it isn't. It's our own responsibility and we can make decisions. But yet so many adults
and people don't even look after themselves properly. You know, that's another thing. And you know, you can go on and on and on because you know they I mean, obviously another thing comes into it is nutrition. Is what these children put in their bodies as well. And if they're being fed pizzas and chicken nuggets and
McDonald's
all that crap,
you
know, instead of something wholesome and you know, it don't have to be bland or plain, but something different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just something decent, like you say, some fresh food. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's fresh, it's great.
Yeah.
But, you know, the queues at McDonald's and KFC, because they're supposed to be seen as essential.
God, KFC, McDonald's, I know, Pizza Hut, all these things. Absolutely ridiculous.
It is. It's shocking.
Shaz says, I'm a bit concerned that all this stalling of children going back to school is just the plotting of getting them jabbed. Now, none of these 3 vaccines are to be given to anyone under the age of 16. 2 actually stay 18 and over. So I just hope that every parent is aware of this. If not, then they need to be. They need to be. Else, God knows what will happen if they start giving the jabs to children. Now, look, let's be real here, and I say this many, many times. You know as well as I do, because I'm sure when you were younger, you went outside, you played in the mud, you climbed trees, did all sorts of things, and fell over in dirt. And obviously, you know, you come across people with flu at times and got very bad flu virus.
Absolutely.
I mean, what is our immune systems are in tatters at the moment in this completely prefabricated illusion that it sits in at the moment of trying to nanny state it, if you like.
Yeah, and when everybody comes out of lockdown eventually, like nobody will have an immune system that's worked for so long. So I must have treated since last July 800-900 people.
Wow.
And I've seen 2 colds, and that's it. And even one of them wasn't really that bad.
Yeah.
So, you know, all these germs have stopped circulating. So when we all
that is in your that is when you're doing your. I'm not going to mention.
Yeah. When I do my.
Did you when you were doing that? Because I know that what was interesting. I know that you've been on this show before, and I know you've been on shows that I did on another station. What always fascinates me, and I think was probably an inroad into you working with kids, is actually when you started to work on babies in the womb.
Yes, that's very interesting work, and that's lovely. That's really nice. It's so interesting, you know, sort of like shifting the energy of a baby onto the right axes, so that you switch them off the fight or flight and onto their rest and digest.
Yeah.
So, like,
and also it's about calming as well, because it's very complex. A baby with inside something, it's quite alien in a way. A baby inside a female. But, you know, the body of the female is going to go through massive trauma and adjustment as the baby grows, obviously. But then the soul enters the baby. Yes,
which is really beautiful. So lovely.
And that can be traumatic in itself. And then there is also the birthing, which can also cause a trauma as well to the baby. And I'm sure you've dealt with people like that.
A lot of things can go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel it comes down to, again, about education, because I feel that people aren't really given the right information or knowledge. I feel that we haven't been given the right information and knowledge for a long time about everything and anything. And what we've been fed is a load of old crap, to be honest.
I know. Yeah, you're right. It is. Absolutely. It really is.
I mean, they should have you, when schools come back, they should have you going into schools and doing a lesson on what you do.
I'm going to try my best to get into the schools, that's for sure.
Is that a difficult barrier to break down?
It depends on each individual school.
Yeah.
And so if you can get in with the SEND workers and the headmaster or the headmistress, and they get it, and it's kind of on their sort of wavelength, then absolutely you'll get in, because they are going to be inundated. The SEND workers are going to be inundated. So CAMS are already too busy. So there's like 36 months waiting list.
Well, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? CAMS, if anyone knows what that is, that's for dysfunctional children, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. So you
36 months waiting list. It's mental.
And that is for suicidal children. So if you've only got something simple like depression and anxiety, you're not bad enough anymore to be referred to CAMS.
Absolute madness. Because where does depression and anxiety lead? It goes into a suicide road, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, sorry, go on. One of the things is what people don't realise, and they don't realise this anymore, is children are not children very long. When they get to 9 and 10, they're starting to be 16 and 17-year-olds. When they get to 14 and 15, they're almost of an attitude of being a 20-year-old, 18-year-old. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They grow up very quick.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do, very quick these days. They do. So if schools have any sense, they will get somebody in to do sort of the mindfulness classes and meditation, because then it will lessen the load on SENS and lessen the load on CAMS, and also teach children a resilience technique they can use for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Which of course the government don't want them to be resilient for the rest of their life.
No, they don't. They want them to be the opposite, in actual fact, and cause dysfunctionality and destabilisation.
Yeah.
Because if they did really care, what they would do is they'd have a task force out there right now, which would be actually in contact with very, very, very what we call at-risk families with children, and would be wanting to talk to them and listen and whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
the words, you're right.
And there should be a channel on television that actually everyone can link into, that's got mindfulness and meditation and chilling out and the kids stuff and everything.
And why you feel all these negative feelings and what to do about it. And so they put exercise on, which is great, and I get that, and that really, really helps. But it doesn't teach children about emotional well-being.
No, and they don't. You see, the world we live in, they don't want them to be kids very, very long at all. And obviously, we live in a disgusting, despicable, absolutely disgusting. I can't say disgusting enough in relation to paedophilia, and in relation to trying to decriminalise paedophilia, and it's absolutely disgraceful that there are people that they're trying to actually make that something that's actually a disease of some description. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it scares the pants off me how much paedophilia is on the increase.
Yeah, and
like you say, it's just been made normal, and it's so scary. And there's 10 times more vulnerable children out there now than there ever was. Yeah, and of course they're just going to scoop them up, aren't they? It's awful.
And this is on top of the other barriers that exist there on an everyday basis of waking up, not knowing if they got food, not knowing if their parents are going to argue, not very concerned about saying anything, not really doing any schoolwork, not got no structure, and completely lost people in our reality that then feel, well, I'll run away or do this or do that because nobody cares.
Yeah. I know, exactly. And then they'll just get hoovered up by the first stranger that comes along. Somebody told me today that churches are opening the doors for vulnerable families and vulnerable children, and you just think, oh my God, Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's, again, I would that would be okay to. Why are they doing it now? We're on our third lockdown. Why don't they do that in the beginning? Why aren't we instead of school? I mean, it's a known fact that children cannot catch it. Basically, young children. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that they could possibly carry it, but anyone can. I mean,
Yeah,
this is so imbecilic that but I mean, I see right through it, and I mean, I've got a very strong view, as you know, in relation to this whole pandemic thing, because it is there, and it's destroying people. And imagine a child that was very bright and very learned at school and wanted to see his friends get on and all sorts, then finds that actually his parents that he never sees normally and now at home all the time because both of them can't work. And he's losing his business, and they haven't got any money, and they're on universal credit or whatever, and then they have to go to food banks to get food, and you haven't got a normal life anymore.
No, and it's changed so quickly, hasn't it? They just pulled the rug from under everybody's feet, didn't they? And caught everybody.
Yeah, but they're destroying us, life.
Yeah, and they don't care, do they? They just don't care. They really don't care. It shocked me how the depth that they are prepared to sink to. I must admit, really has.
Low life.
It really has surprised me. Yeah, they are.
There's a headline which actually Matthew John just mentioned to me. I mentioned that in the Metro headline here says normal life may not return until 2024. Restrictions could be in place until then. Do you know what? It'd be in 5 or 10 years' time. People won't know what hugs are. And it's not just about hugs, but people will be put off having children because you're not allowed to have sex. You're not allowed to have any closeness, any bonding.
No,
do you know what I mean?
God, no.
And one of the things that amazes me, because there won't be anyone, they won't want people reproducing children. The one thing that amazes me is how all of this has brought out the worst traits in people, in deceit, lies. And people that you think, well, you can really trust them and all sorts, and then you find out they're not. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly. I know it has been quite shocking, actually. It has. I had a bit of a personal trauma and a nightmare myself because it kind of brought a side out of somebody that I was quite shocked by. And rather than people actually coming forward and being supportive of each other, the fear is making people attack each other.
Yeah.
So they're doing, their pandemic is working. They've put so much fear into people, it just turns people against people. And it's ridiculous. It's kind of like, no, that behaviour is not acceptable. We should be supporting each other, not turning against each other. But of course, that's what they want.
That's what they want, and that's what they're breeding in people as well.
Yeah,
and I know everyone's under pressure, but the old adage is that if we communicate with each other, then obviously there's not a problem, is there? Because in whatever relationships people are in, they should be able to talk to each other.
Yeah, they should. In a civilised way.
Yeah.
But quite supportive.
Yeah.
Rather than everybody just being so fearful that they just lash out against each other. And then again, the children seeing all this. So yeah, it is quite harsh what's going on. It is.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Your website's really good as well, like Patrick's. Looks very, very interesting. Loads of stuff on there. Really good, and it's about yourself as well. And
thank you.
What is cool for kids, and it's a program. But I know you're also going on doing snippets, as I said before. And if you want to check out the website, is Cool Kids with Cool Minds, I think, which is a great name. .org.uk. Where did that come from?
Well, it kind of doesn't mean cool as in I'm trendy.
No.
It means cool kids with cool minds. I'm in control of my mind and my emotions, and nobody else is in control of my mind. I know what I'm doing. So it's kind of teaching children these resilient emotional coping techniques so they can be positively emotionally independent, unlike what the majority of people are, which is negatively codependent. So it's about you know, sort of understanding your emotions and not letting anybody else trigger you, control you. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah, because we are free people. Even in relationships, they're still free people. Yeah. We still have our own minds, our own attitudes. Yeah, it's about compromise, and you know, and if you haven't got that, well, then we could sit here for hours talking about families. But the fact is that if the family is disjointed, the child's going to be disjointed. The child grows up in a family and thinks what it sees is what life is. And this is where a lot of problems exist in them later on when they get older, because they find out actually it's not normal to go and hit your mum. Do you know what I mean?
Or, I know,
you know, drink 10 pints a day and come back and fall over and get, you know, sick everywhere and everything. Do you know, I'm not, that's extreme, but, you know, it is.
It's happening though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, it's more than a concern of what's happening. And, I think what you're doing is brilliant. I think you should be battering down the door of the education and see if you can get in there. Because I feel that would be really good.
Yeah, I will try my best. I certainly will.
And obviously, if you want to check out Nikki on Facebook, she's under Cool Kids, with Cool Minds, or just hook up with Nicola Parkinson on Facebook itself. You've been amazing. It's been fantastic to touch base. It's been a long time. It's been a long journey. We've all been through all sorts of different things in that journey. God,
absolutely, But we've come out surviving, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We've come out surviving.
Well, we're here and we're at it. Yeah. So, you know, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
So you've been amazing tonight. Thank you very much for coming
lovely to talk to you, Clint.
And I'd love to get you on in a couple months' time, see how you're doing, what you're doing, and all sorts.
Absolutely.
And you know, send you loads of blessings and everything, and good luck with what you're doing, because I think it's really valid, to be honest.
Thank you so much, and same back to you, Clint. Same back to you. It's nice to have shows like this to air our views and everybody talk about it.
Absolutely, where there's nothing out there. I mean, there is a few, like there's Richie Allen and a few others, but to be honest, everything's pretty much been locked down. Do you know what I mean?
It has. Yeah, it does. Yep. Yeah, it does.
So, yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Take care.
And you're obviously going to be doing some films probably tomorrow and all sorts over the weekend or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely,
and make sure you tune in. All right.
Will do. Take care.
Thank you very much, Nikki.
Thanks a lot, Clint. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Yeah. Bye. Amazing. There you are, Nikki. What great name. Cool Kids with Cool Minds. I was taking guests tonight, talking about teenagers and young children, that as well, in coping mechanisms to help them. Her website's fascinating. You should go on it. It's all about how we think. It's about changing attitudes, and it's about incorporating different idealism and different constructs in our life to deal with difficult situations and constructs in our life, which we could say we're in right now. Shad says, thank you, Nicola, and keep up the good work. Absolutely. We have got another guest on. It's just unbelievable tonight. We have got Crystal Desprez. I'm going to give her a bow and see if we can get hold of her. And Crystal Desprez is a sound technician and sound artist, and she's an immensely clever young lady as well. All clever people. And she's not answering that. But Crystal Desprez has been on again. Here we go. She's ringing me now. Hello, Crystal. Hello. Are you there?
I think it was a bit of a lag, because you were just calling me, and then my Facebook has gone back in time a little bit.
That's all right. Well, we dimensionally time traveled. How are you, Crystal? It's so good to hear.
Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. Good to hear you as well.
Well, absolutely. And you know, in the struggles and strife that we're in at this moment in time, I mean, I gave you a bit of an introduction, but I mean, you do so many different things, and your website, crystaldesprez.com, is got loads and loads of interesting sound portfolios, all about yourself and everything on it.
I've just put up Abigail's signature as well, just this moment. I'll be updating it a little bit more, because I'm doing a movie film score at the moment.
Wow. And what film is that? Can you say? Or?
Well, I don't know. This one's for a competition. Basically, I'm in a competition for NGC Lab 2021, which is the Next Generation of Composed Lab.
Right.
And they set the first movie, Abigail, and I did 3 minutes of that one, which is on my website, and it's gorgeous. Really kind of challenging for me because I had to do 6 different scenes and
Wow.
make music kind of tell the story of the scene. It was completely blank. The only thing we had was the actors' voices and the sound design.
And how do you start to put together something for that? And it's about, because you need the emotion as well, don't you? And the
yeah, I really think about that when I'm looking at the screen. When I've got something like on a film, so for that one, the film kind of directs me. So I'm taking all the details that's going on screen. I'm there with my notepad. Like I read, obviously that film's based in like a steampunk fantasy. It's overcoming difficulties and triumphing over. It's a really beautiful, heartwarming film, and it's in English, so you can understand it, even though it's made in Russia.
Yeah.
And so the sequence I started with, or I chose, was to have the battle sequence, and then it moves into, like, I used an atonal sequence because you're looking at the screen from a third person, like kind of the action happening, and there's no real main character. Then I was using an atonal transition that blended in to another character hearing what has just happened from this like kind of sonic boom, and then she reunites with her lover, and then she has a memory, a really poignant memory about her dad.
Wow.
And then she goes back to the scene about basically hope for the future and what they want, you know, with her lover and her clan at the end. So that was the first competition. Now,
and that is, you've got to write pieces for all of that. All those different parts.
Each individual bit is a completely different piece, but it intertwines with the whole as a whole piece.
Wow, that is amazing. And that must take a bit of time up. But I should think, like everything, once you start, it flows.
Yeah, you get a stop to the start. So like, one part flows, and then you get, like, your brain is going faster than you can cut it out. And because obviously I'm entering everything in, and then I'm having to go to, then after I've entered everything in on the DAO, I'm taking everything to the scores. So I take it into Sibelius and actually write all of the notes for all the parts of the orchestra, because we had, like, the brief was set at that time to a 52-piece orchestra. The one I'm doing now is for a 76-piece orchestra.
Wow, that's immense. And you write it for that?
Say again?
You writing that for that orchestra itself?
Yeah. It's the Moscow State Orchestra. So if I'm selected in the top 16, I literally get an opportunity to go and study with Harry Gregson Williams, who is the composer behind Shrek, Chronicles of Narnia. People will know him for. He's done loads. His discography is huge for the kind of scores that he's done. And also have your music actually recorded with the orchestra, which will probably make me cry, because I'll probably just cry.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of emotion in what you do, because it stirs up with inside yourself. Can I just excuse myself for 1 minute, because this is a message to Queenie Madison, whoever you are, get out of my show right now, because you're not asking any of my people for readings. That is completely and utterly disgusting, and you're not a spiritual person at all. So you need to leave this immediately, because nobody's interested in having readings with you, all right? And just because there's a lot of people here doesn't mean that you can just gate crash this place and ask people for readings, all right? Sorry about that. There's a lot of hackers and God knows what.
Oh gosh, okay. He would do battle. Well, see, if you ever look at the video, you'll love the battle scene.
Yeah,
it's a really good battle scene, because it kind of, the great thing about steampunk is that it combines the old with the new, and it's got that magical fantasy side of it. So that's the film. and it's the actual piece of music, and the film only lasts 3 minutes, so you can have a cup of coffee and watch it. And if you're on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to me, or like it on YouTube, etc., and leave a comment. I always listen to the comments. Let me know what your thoughts and feelings are. I'm really, really interested in your feedback, because that's the best form that informs me as a composer.
Absolutely, and what you're doing and whether you're going the right way and all the rest of it, isn't it? You must have some sort of studio where you are, have you?
I do, yeah. I have
Wow.
a home studio and run everything on Mac. I will be upgrading later on this year because my Mac is pretty old.
Yeah.
I've had it since I started doing my degree, so it's kind of lasted me a while. And I know how sometimes I frustratingly shout at Logic,
Yeah.
and which is the DAW I use for doing the MIDI parts, because it after when you're laying 56 instruments down or something like that, it struggles to process them all, and it's like I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So and I'm like, come on, you got to do this, So having to nurse it through, and it manages to do it. And this other part, the other brief that I've been given by the NDC lab for the next part of the competition is for a film theme that has to be under 5 minutes long, and it has to basically be a theme for a film. So you've got a nice film to compose it to. It's of your own emotional imagination, which is great. And from what my nan has heard me of it so far, which was a little bit of string. I'm doing the harmonies of the strings at the moment. I've done the piano and the flute. Then I should end up and gradually building up.
That sounds so complex and complicated to me, but I don't write. I'm not having to write it for an orchestra. But I suppose once you've done once you've done one set, then you can see how the other set fit into it.
Yeah, we're quite lucky with the tools that we've got now.
Yeah.
I mean, in the olden days, you just had to rely on your own head and pen and paper.
Yeah. Can you imagine the days of Beethoven?
Oh, he's a genius. I mean, even when he was going deaf, he sawed the legs off of his piano so that he could use a pencil in his mouth and bang the keys of the piano so that he could hear the resonance in his head.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
It's just, the power of music, and the fact that when you are a musician and you are a composer or an artiste even, you will not cease. You will not cease. There is nothing that will stand in your way between you and your medium to be able to express, whether you need it as much as air.
Absolutely.
And it's just great. It's just great when you start off with an idea, and then when you actually realise, by the end of it, because it's also in that movie sequence, there was a set of lyrics that kept bugging me every single time I was playing the music. So I ended up having to sing them. So that's my voice at the end of the film on the Abigail's signature, because it just felt like every time I was playing that melody, I had to have those lyrics. And I had to ask the orchestra, do you mind if I sing? And they said, no, of course not. So it's fine. So I thought, okay, here I go. But the amount of time that you listen to something when you're in production mode, when you're having to make everything sound kind of realistic, and you're layering different instruments, layering your libraries and everything to kind of bring it to life, and you kind of at the end of it, you're like, oh, is that the end? Is that have I actually finished? And then you leave it for that. I would say, never let it go until the next day, because then go back to it the following day after you finished, and then listen to it again with a fresh pair of ears. And that's another thing with music. You need to have a time in between to be able to have the fresh ears. You literally only have like an hour's worth of ear time before the ears start going, not being able to recognise the differentials so well. And so you get ear strain if you're a producer, and so it's good to, even if it's just going to do the washing up or go and do a bit of something else, and then come back
break the chain, because when you go back, it's like writers. I mean, when you write and then you go away from it, you come back, you think, oh, I'll do this now, because it gives you creativity, because you're thinking and evolving it within inside yourself, aren't you?
Yes, and you're allowing all those frequencies that have just gone around and around in your head to kind of dissipate and inform your brain of where it wants to go next.
And this is a massive, huge, obviously, distraction to what we live in our reality right now, which is complete garbage, to be honest.
It is, and even Russia's having it really difficult at the moment, and I'm thinking I might be, hopefully, fingers and toes crossed, if everything goes well, be one of the fortunate ones to be invited to Russia.
I tell you what, that'd be a fascinating country to go to.
And they've got problems at the moment where there's riots on the streets and everything, and the country's up in arms because a political leader, I won't be able to pronounce his name, but said something controversial regarding Putin, and ended up getting put in prison. I don't think it was for the first time. And so Russia, I was thinking, gosh, I hope it's going to be all right. And it's kind of firing off all over the place a little bit.
It's very volatile wherever you go, I think, right now. And I was saying earlier on that even in this country, you see people that are very aggressive, and even people outside when they're driving, they're sleeping. They're sleep driving. Drive so slow.
Gosh.
So,
I drive slow though. I'm one of those granny drivers. I always drive on the A road.
But you're obviously coping well with the lockdown and everything that it is, even though, in my opinion, as you know anyway, that I feel it's pandemic, basically.
Thanks to music, yes, an outlet, my musical outlet, and also, coaching and those kinds of things, and getting people singing and getting people writing and being part of the overall community of composition and engaging with people socially in that way. And then I also work. My work is quite different to what I do in music. I actually do accounts, but it's still numbers. And so it's just
it's still numbers, and in a way, it's a bit like music. In a way, you could say, but it's also quite grounding to do something like that as well. I can imagine.
Yeah, especially when you get it right, because it was with numbers, they don't lie and they don't get it wrong. It's the same with music as well, it's a similar sort of thing. It's like when you've got the structure to it, and it makes the end result, and it lifts you up, makes you feel something, and just like, yes, got it, that's what I was after. It's a similar sort of thing as when you're doing something maybe not so glamorous as kind of doing asset register control or something like that. But when you've actually
we tend to forget where we've been, where we come from, and in relation to yourself, like many of us, we've all grown into ourselves. Do you know what I mean? After going through lots of rubbish and not knowing and all sorts of different things. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. Gosh, oh yes. Life happens between the notes. We make plans, but life happens between the notes, or between the strokes if you're an artist. That's what you get to paint is your experience.
Absolutely. Well, I was talking. It's quite interesting tonight because, in lots of ways, all three, including yourself, are very creative people on the show tonight. You've got Patrick Gamble, who's been immensely talented with his artwork as a medium. Then you got Nikki, who's just been on with doing stuff with kids, a different frequency and vibration, looking at things in a different way. And then you got yourself that, film scores is massive, isn't it?
Yes, and in other times I would be doing musical workshops for children, which I love doing as well, because they're creative imaginators. I'm sure Nikki would agree with me.
Yeah.
But to them, there are no limits. If you ask them a question, what does a cloud sound like? They'll come up with 100 different things that a cloud can sound like.
Yeah.
And it's great. And then we end up going around and collecting different sounds and making it into something that's completely unique. And it's so much fun for them as well as for me. It simplifies everything that I know, but also kind of inspires me to know that there's always an answer to every question that I may have, and it's a simple answer. It's kind of think outside of the box, and so I do miss doing those. I used to do those in the half terms and in the festivals and those kinds of things, just to be able to kind of take my tools on the road and do little mini workshops. So it's not so technically demanding, but it's just fun, and it's also good to be able to give them professional tools to be able to kind of work their imagination.
And Nikki completely agrees with you. She said yes, defo in the comments, and what's fascinating what fascinates me is it'd be totally different with adults, but with children, when you go to them and say, show me what a cloud sounds like, that's fascinating. Do you know what I mean?
And they have ideas, squidgy. They come up with ideas, squidgy, shiny, bouncy. Goes all sorts. And you just pop. What I do is I get a great big I think it's A1 sheet or something like that on a great big board, and I act really silly, so they can't be silly. I'm the silliest one, and I don't know a thing about anything apart from just the questions I'm asking. So I'm kind of like, oh, what does it sound like? What are we going to do about this? You know, and they're like, oh, I know, and then they'll tell you, and then you just write their answers on the board, and you think, okay, so what around us sounds squidgy? Does this sound squidgy? And they're like, no. And it's all a bit of fun, so they all get to be really excited. And then at the time when it comes to recording, they know when we do the recording, they're all going to have to be really, 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 really quiet.
Yeah. And they'd be in the moment, because in a way they're creating what they're talking about by actually creating it then in their music.
Yes, and they love it. I should put one on my website, but I did a song workshop with them, and they came up with the lyrics and everything, and brought their own instruments in and their own sound. And the 6-year-old, she wrote a blog article afterwards because the mum was homeschooling, which everybody's kind of having to do at the moment.
Yeah.
But prior to that, she was homeschooling anyway, and took her to another workshop where they made an instrument. And first thing she was singing was a song that she sung, what she made herself at a workshop that she had with me. And I just felt, that was just like, oh my God, it was amazing. It was just amazing.
That is completely amazing. Sparkle.
It was so good, so much fun, and to see it all come together. And it makes everything worth it, and it helps them to realise that they can make their dreams come true and make it a reality.
Yeah, by what's inside them, bringing it out. You know, which is an absolute key in our reality, rather than the tried and tested.
And creative problem solving is what you need in society, any field that you're in.
Yeah.
Any field you go in, if you can think outside of the box and think, well, hang on a second, I did this there, and that worked there. If I apply that here, maybe this will work.
Yeah.
And to think like that rather than kind of limit ourselves. And I think a lot when I've coached adults, for instance, on vocals, I have one lady who was part of a trio, and she kept on saying, I can't do this and I can't do that. So I gave her a pen and a paper, and I said, I want you to write the word can't down without having can in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's I can, however I don't feel like it. I can, however I don't know. I can, however I'm thinking about this right now, or to get to the root cause. But always know that you can do this. It's just the way in which you're instantly cutting yourself off from being
because
able
it's so
to.
easy to say I can't do it. It's so easy to say, isn't it? I can't do it. Where in actual fact, what you've done is you defeat yourself before you even let yourself out. So you imprison yourself.
Can. In other words, if you think about every time you can get these sort of slap bands like on your wrist, where every time you catch it, you can catch yourself saying, I can't. You just go, I can, however, I don't know how to do this, or I need to know where to get this from, or I need people that do this, and then at least you can empower yourself on the step to take next, rather than thinking instantly that you can't do it. You know, because it's. You can. Where there's a will, there's a way. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, music is everything, as you say. It conforms to everything within our life. We listen to it every day, all of us in lots of different ways, listen to lots of different music, and a varied different amount of music as well, not just one genre, all sorts. And as you're listening to that music, you are actually, it's getting into your emotions, it's getting into you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, that's definitely the skill of a good film composition, is being able to tell the emotional story between what's happening on the screen with the characters and you as the viewer, so that you are pulled into the film, so that you are having the experience, so that you can feel the feelings. That's why
because the music is so important, because if there's no music, you won't be dragged into it, would you?
No, definitely not. And the storytelling's not there because of like you said, the emotion's missing. That's why in the old days, in the early days of cinema, they used to have the pianist sat
That's
in
right.
the cinema. Up he came and he used to play along to the film, and it makes or breaks a film. A good score makes or breaks a film. I've seen some films where I've been quite frustrated because they would have been really, really box office smashes, but they've just missed out because of not having a score at the right moment. Especially there was one with a great A-star actors, had Will Smith in it and his son in it. Beautiful story, but when it came to the memory of his mother, there was nothing for the yellow hues and the hue saturation. The scenes need enough, and for the memory, and I was just like, no, you can't leave out the score there. That's where that's that poignant moment.
Yeah, because it's very subtle in lots of ways. When we have music in the score, because we're being dragged by different senses within inside ourselves that sense the vibration frequency and it's telling the story to you before it actually happens in a way.
Yes, so it's good. I do find that when I'm more, I don't, because of the score, because of my knowledge in score, then whenever I'm watching anything that's supposed to be a jump scare, I generally tend to watch everyone else because I know when the jump scare is coming. Yeah. So I can tell.
But you must have a critical eye when watching a film in relation to you're probably sitting there making notes saying that is
continuously
terrible.
Analysing always. And there was one film. It was a horror film, and I was on my own in the house. Probably didn't add to the ambience. Probably didn't help. And it was called Casa Dagger. But I was perplexed because at the point when she was escaping, she was deaf, so she couldn't hear. The character was deaf, so she couldn't hear the angle grinder that I could hear. And there was no score other than this angle grinder. And there was no cues. And I had to write to the director in the end, and I said, look, you had my heart racing 20 minutes after the film. How did you achieve this? Because I do score, and I recognised there was no cues, there was none of this. And he wrote back to me and told me that it was the cut ratio of the film. So on the visual side of it was the cut ratio. So just in the same way as that you can increase the tempo or decrease the tempo, or in musical terms, you can also do the same in the cut frequency between slides. So as he'd already had my heart racing prior to entering that moment, and then everything was going at a nice calm because now she's succeeding, she gets out and she successfully leaves, my heart was still racing at the period, even though it was disjointed from what was appearing on the screen. And so that was quite fascinating. So I'm always analysing, you're right, I am always analysing, and sometimes I'm really inspired by a really good score, and that will attract me to watching a movie. If the score's not very good, it'll put me off the movie. Because I'm always looking for that engaging.
Because the music does make the film. I know you have the characters and all sorts going on, but it really makes the film. I mean, I always look at Lord of the Rings. The score on Lord of the Rings is phenomenal. The music is phenomenal on Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I listen to that quite often. Even when I'm doing my accounts when I'm at work, because I have my office. Then in my office, then I'm always listening to hours and hours and hours. I've got hours and hours of film scores going on repeat on YouTube whilst I'm doing the accounts, and I'm just zoning in, but I'm also listening, and kind of my left and my right brain are both working at the same time. And it's lovely. I was listening to an hour's worth of going into the Shire the other day, and it's just so beautiful, and you've got the Elvish, and it's just such poetry.
It really is. I think it's amazing. And you know, for people out there that will just watch films, it's all of a sudden they might start thinking, well, actually I can understand what you're talking about now, because the music really is the part that links together everything, isn't it?
And another one of my favourite scores, I know it's on the Matrix. The blend between the sound designer and the score writer is completely flawless, and the sound editor as well. When they manage to blend environments and change, like literally just by morphing the sound and using the frequencies and then blending into it, it's absolutely phenomenal what you can do. That's why like I say, the tools that we have today enable us to do so much with sound. And
well, it does, and I must admit, I listen to it. Well, I listen to a lot of things, but I do like a lot of sort of what do you call ambient electronic, not fast tempo, but in dub as well. So it's all echoey and it's all spatial. Do you know what I mean? It's meant really nice, really nice.
Yeah, the ambiences and the atmospherics that you can create are really something special.
And then they throw in some people talking or whatever, or somebody's doing a speech or something, and it's quite remarkable. It's very out there and here at the same time.
Yeah, it's nice. If it can take you somewhere else, or it can transport you in, like with film score, it can transport you. If it can transport you there and you feel the emotions, then it's done the storytelling.
It's done the job it's meant to do. Yeah. Absolutely.
And with music that's also kind of electronic and is able to kind of transport you to another place and time in your own mind, and where it's a completely different universe.
Yeah.
You know, where you know, you can have, like you say, it's endless. You could have a speech or something that's provoking a thought whilst having kind of ambient sounds coming in and lifting and then taking you on a journey. It's just phenomenal. And so I also like coaching others to be able, taking their steps. It's nice to be a part of the kind of composing community and answering questions and those sorts of things, and doing video game music and doing different pieces for multimedia. And because each brief, everything it's a completely new. And when I start something like that, when it's a film, it's really having it's really being able to kind of let go. You have to have a let go. You have to have a let go and allow it to unfold before you, and know that you do have some kind of critic. You have to have sort of, when you're looking back over things, you're like, no, that's not right. This needs to be there. This needs to be there, and you kind of go back over and edit things. But
sometimes we can do damage in doing that. It's like when somebody paints a picture and you think, I don't like that, I'll do this, and then sometimes you can do it in one hit, can't you? It's like I write poetry and I write the poem, I don't change it.
Yes, in one free flow.
Yeah,
that's it. And there's a song of mine that I did called "A Soul" on SoundCloud, and that was completely. I just didn't even know what I was going to write. It's just myself voice. It's just my voice and piano, and I just sat down with a recorder and I just free flowed everything.
Yeah,
and it just came out. And I love being in flow like that. And a lot of this is why I like with this film score, the film theme that I'm doing now. That's how I addressed with the piano. I just allowed myself to kind of just really just elaborate and just kind of ad-lib until I felt the feeling. And the feeling was there, and the feeling was driving the piece, and I wasn't thinking the piece, and the emotion was
And we have to jump out of ourselves to connect to something like that as well. So we have to go into different realms to connect to it, as well as just in our human form, in what we like in the frequency vibration.
Yes. You can't exactly be thinking about what you have to.
You can't be thinking, I'm going down the road to buy some fish and chips in a minute, because that's not.
All distractions have to be away in that way. You have to zone in and just focus in and know that you can do it, and do things that are outside of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So if there's anything that you...
That is in general, not just in music. That should be in general, really. Yeah. Do things outside your comfort zone. You build your empowerment of yourself back, basically. So.
And not being afraid to learn things. You know, our brains are not hardwired. You don't get to a certain age and they're stuck. You're always able to learn.
Absolutely.
Always able to learn. And,
you've been absolutely incredible, Crystal. It's fascinating, and it's fascinating getting into the mind of somebody that puts together music scores and everything. And it's, you know, it's like everything. It's like I suppose it's like once you've done it, and it comes down to the unique creativeness that you have, like directors in the way they direct, if you like, like actors in the way they act, like everyone that does everything in their own unique way.
Yeah.
If you want to check out Crystal, she's got a website, www.crystaldesprit.com. That is CrystalDesprit.com. That's Desprit.com. Fascinating site. And they've got a development blog on there and sound portfolio and all sorts and that. And you
can contact me directly.
And you can contact her. Absolutely. It's got all the details, or contact details and everything as well. So,
and if you're on Facebook, then just after Facebook, Music Crystal. So if they want to send me a direct message, then it's just Music Crystal after the Facebook.com. And then you'll be able to send me a message with anything that you would like, if you want to do any kind of, if you fancy doing some vocal coaching, if you fancy doing some music making.
Or just say hi.
Yeah, or just say hi, yeah.
You've been great as always, Crystal. Thank you very much for coming on. And I will getting good luck with your competition and all sorts of that as well. I'm sure you won't need it. And
I'm really excited to finish off with strings. It's just the next stage is the strings. I should be really happy when the strings, and then it's going to be great. Yeah. I have until May to get this piece in, so I've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But it's as Morpheus said, time is always against us. So you can kind of get, you need a lot of time to be able to create things that are worth. You need to allow them to breathe. Yes, I will definitely keep you posted, Clint. I know I'm going on, but I'm really excited about it. And I will definitely let you and your listeners know.
Yeah, you can send it through and we'll play it, obviously, on live and everything. So it's no problem.
Okay, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, that'd be great.
And you stay safe, and we will catch up in a month or so's time again, see how you're doing, what you're up to and everything, because it's always great to have you on. And it's always great with all of the guests that support the Inview, because it's a nice place to open up yourself and your platform, as well as anyone wants to ask you any question that as well. So it's been really good. Thank you very much, Crystal.
You're welcome, Clint.
We will speak soon.
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. There it is, Crystal Desprit. As I said, go to her website, www.crystaldesprit. That's spelled Crystal is Crystal, Desprit, Desprit.com. Fascinating lady, absolutely fascinating. Fascinating people, all of them are fascinating people, all in their own right, bringing on their own creative ability and understanding this reality, and looking for differences and bringing out a uniqueness. Patrick, Nikki and Crystal, absolutely phenomenal. We have a last guest coming up. I don't know who he is, but he's some international guest of some description. It'd be interesting to see who he is. I'm sure he will be ringing in very, very soon. I will tell you a little bit about my show that's coming up on Wednesday. No, I won't. I'll tell you about that after this. This is the last guest. Here he is. I don't know who's on the dog and bone. Hello, who's calling the Inview tonight?
Hello there. This is Barry Palmer.
Hello, Barry Palmer, and I've never spoke to you before, Barry Palmer, and how did you get my number, and who are you?
Well, my name's Barry Palmer. I'm Boris Johnson's hair farmer. You could say I'm his pharmacist,
You're his hair farmer.
Yeah, you see, I farm Johnson's hair.
Do you? What, like you combine it and stuff like that?
No, not like that. What you do, you see, is you get a couple of strands of his hair, original hair, you see, because it wears out, because that's where all these brains are, you see.
Really? Has
And
he
his
got any?
his motor functions are controlled from his hair, you see.
Right, because he never ever brushes it, does he?
No, you see, you can't do, otherwise his brains would fall out, wouldn't they?
Would they? So if he brushed his hair, his brains would fall out his ears?
Yeah, every strand of hair carries a lot of brain, you see.
Really? I didn't.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
I didn't think he was that brainy, to be honest. But you know, he obviously has some intelligence. But
you'll be surprised there, because when his hair does fall out, he has people that go around and pick his hair up, and they send them to me in the mail. And what I do then is I get a turnip, and I plant
you get a turnip.
Yeah, and plant a couple of his hairs in the turnip and put them in the ground, plant them, see, 2 weeks later as the full head of hair come out.
Oh my God. Well, you could actually probably pinch someone's hair to stick on it, but it wouldn't work the same, I suppose, would it?
No. It probably start smoking and catch fire, I suppose.
Oh, that's
you
true.
can't do that.
So have you actually met him a few times?
No, I've never met him, but it pays good money, though, I'll tell you, these current times. You know?
He pays good money for hair to be grown on turnips for him.
Well, there's two types of hair grow for them, you see. One, it's a lot of free-range hair where they're allowed.
Is that like free-range chickens?
Yeah, the hair's allowed to roam around in the field, that sort of thing, you know. And they've got battery hair as well, you see.
Battery hair? Really?
Yeah, you know, like I give an example. Look, I just open the door where they are. You see, totally incoherent they are. See, this is before they go do the Johnson Hair School of Excellence.
They're all so your hairs talk then.
Well, they got to learn. You see, you got to learn 2 basic words,
right?
And then they get sent to Boris. You see, those 2 words are fundamental and unprecedented. See, once they learn them words, you see, they have very got difficulty with them. Then the hair gets sent to them. See, the battery ones that get sent to him, they're all over the shop, you see, because they used to being in close quarters. So that's for when he's around in and around town, see, in Parliament. But when he goes out in the country, like when he goes on his bike, oh, that's another thing. You see the bloody hair, you see, you stick them on a bike and push the bike across the field and that. Got to teach them how to ride a bike, see.
Really?
Yeah, some of them make it, others don't. The others that don't,
so do they fall out of his head?
Do what? Fall out of his head?
Hair.
No, he don't fall out of his head.
Are they?
I don't know exactly what happens. I just farm them, you see, and I send them off to him, and he puts it on his head. I expect he takes a mop of hair off and puts another one on. I don't know. So
he's bald, really? Then technically, isn't he?
Well, yeah, because that's where his brains and all that are, is his hair.
Not in his head, in his hair.
In his hair, yeah. So you know, you take it off, and he's just standing there, gormless, staring at something, or a wall or whatever. He can't do anything. No motor function at all.
Do you farm anyone else's hair?
Not at the moment, no.
And how long have you been farming Boris Johnson's mullet?
Oh, we've been doing it the last 10 years.
Really? Nobody knew that. So
he did.
Well, obviously he did, yeah. But obviously, I mean, you know, if somebody grabbed his hair and yanked him, I mean, say for instance he's in the Thrones of Passion with someone and they grabbed his hair, that'd take his brains out, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, and pulled his hair off.
Yeah.
He would just stay there and be rigid, wouldn't he?
Well, yeah.
That'd be it. He wouldn't be able to move.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah. I've never heard anything like it. I've never heard that Boris Johnson's got somebody that farms his hair. I thought him, you know, what about hairdressers? They have to be careful when they're combing it, don't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, have to have a special kind of comb. You don't pull his hair out too much. Well, obviously some come out. That can't be helped, but try and take as little out as possible because that's 1 million brain cells gone out. Take his one strand of hair carries 1 million brain cells. See?
Do you think that's what's wrong with what's going on at the moment with COVID? That he's lost a lot of brain cells and he's had it replaced with a lot of battery ones.
Well, yeah, it could be. It could be a mix-up. You see, because I understand that there's a lot of these do-gooders, around, and that apparently, from what I gather from my foreman, he saw a few of them hanging around the farm. You see, now if one or two of them got in and swapped a few other hairs around, like swapped a few free range with the battery ones, then all hell will break loose, and that's probably explain why Boris Johnson is as he is now. He's all over the shop, isn't he? So he's probably got the battery. Battery air on his head.
We do talk to somebody that actually opens doors for him, who's in the back, very back benches, outside the car park in Parliament. And he says that actually Boris Johnson is not human. He's a cockroach.
He's a cockroach. I can believe that. I can quite believe that because he has all the batteries for a cockroach, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He comes out with a lot of shit,
and he eats a lot of shit.
Well, I expect he does eat a lot of shit. I didn't actually see him do that, but
no, I don't. I've never been invited to see him eat, so no.
I mean, I'm a great believer in free opportunity and that sort of thing. I mean, I try to keep all these do-gooders at bay by having free range Johnson there, you see. I mean, when they're out in the wilds, they're allowed to be out there for 5 hours a day before they get put in their coops,
Really?
Because,
do they actually...
we don't want just anybody... We don't want just anybody coming into the farm and taking his hair, do we?
Yeah. Does his hair actually move?
Well, only when it sways in the wind or something like that.
It don't walk or anything. His hair don't walk across the field.
We don't walk, no, it kind of slithers, It can slither quite fast, especially the free-range ones when they're out, You put them out in the pasture and that, and they can move quite rapidly, Sometimes the buggers round them up.
Really? And what do you round? You don't round them up with a sheepdog, do you?
No, we get round them up on a quad. See, give a quad and then go around there, and they got a big net. See, and I catch them in the net.
All right, because you don't want them escaping, do you?
No, we don't want them escaping over the barbed wire fence and in the woods. Don't want that. You can just imagine a badger with Boris Johnson's hair on, can't
you? And these sound like these battery hair. Sounds like that they are like crops genetically modified.
Well, I don't know whether genetically modified. It might have something to do with what we feed them on.
Well, what do you feed Boris Johnson's hair on?
Peanuts and Marmite.
Peanuts and Marmite. So these hairs actually eat that, do they?
Well, they must do something with it. Because they put trays of it down there, and next morning they're all gone.
Really? It might be rabbits or badgers coming to eat it.
Well, they can't get in there, see. They got security systems in there and cameras, all sorts of things, alarm systems.
Wow. And obviously, I mean, these hairs, they're almost like little people then, aren't they, that he sticks in his head?
Well, I don't like the use of the term cloning. I call him farming, see. I'm farming his hair, really. Yeah. So, I mean, basically what it does, I mean, you put it on his head and roots sort of go into his head, from what I gather. And then he's got motor functions, like, he can move his arms and his legs. And, of course, you get the occasional one put in there by mistake because you can't get good help these days, And
so do the hairs argue with each other on his head?
No, well, you get. Well, we've got a couple of new guys, you see. And I think one of them made a mistake and got confused, and he put when Boris Johnson's supposed to go out up to Scotland, instead of putting like the one with the Scottish hair on it, like he put one of the town ones on it, one of the London ones, which is sort of trained to to be around in London and that sort of thing. And so that's when he got up to Scotland, he didn't know what he was doing or what he was saying. See,
that's right. He went up to Scotland. Do you think he takes spare hair with him in case it falls out?
Well, he takes like a bit bigger than a briefcase, and he normally keeps 2 of each. He normally keeps 2 free-range ones out there for when he's out in the country, right? And 2 town ones when he's in the town, and 2 when he visits home countries like the Scotland. Well, I don't think he had the Scottish ones in there.
Right. So, I mean, he didn't have to go to Scotland, did he? Really?
He didn't have to go to Scotland, no. But then again, I suppose it is his job as Prime Minister, isn't he? He's still Prime Minister of Scotland.
Yeah, but he can go to Scotland, but we can't go anywhere.
We could if it's our job, couldn't we?
Well, we could if it's our job, yeah. But, I mean, it's a bit extreme, isn't it? I mean,
Not really, I suppose. I mean, under the current climate, I suppose it could be seen that way, but it is his job anyway, isn't it? As Prime Minister to visit. You
haven't been affected by COVID down there, I should imagine, and obviously his hair don't get affected by COVID, does it? Even though he did catch COVID, apparently.
Yeah, he did catch COVID. Yeah, but we had to be extremely careful there. We had a lot of testing going on down at the farm, see, and because when he caught it, because sometimes we get sent back a batch of hair. See,
all right. So he sends you back something that don't work.
Well, yeah, sometimes they don't work at all.
Right.
Sometimes he put it on and it just don't take root in his head,
Hey, that's quite remarkable. So when he puts it on his head, they must burrow into his skull.
Yeah, it's tiny little things that come out the underside of the hair.
They call it.
Yeah, and they sort of got tiny little hooks on. Like fish hooks that have what you call them on. They're barb.
And does that then conduct in some sort of spasmic way to his brain?
Well, yeah, only anything that's been programmed into his hair can go down. He's, into. You got the basic functions and motor functions, arms, legs, eyes, mouth, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the brain behind it, which actually makes it work, is very complicated. See.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes they get mixed up, especially up the other end, because we have to send them in boxes, and of course we can't send too many boxes because people get too wary,
Are you doing any other politicians' hair?
No, nothing like that. Don't do anybody else's hair at the moment. Maybe after he's ceased to become Prime Minister, somebody else's. I don't know. But at the moment you do that, you may ask what you do with all the other hair, that you don't use.
Well, yeah. What do you do with the other hair that you don't use?
Well, we normally sell it to the local farmers around here, and they turn it into fertilizer.
Do they? But so does that fertilizer talk to the cows?
No, it don't talk to the cows. It just makes the plants grow a lot better. I tell you that.
Well, maybe that's what he should do instead of Prime Minister. Maybe stick his head in the ground.
That's why you see so many people out there, having conversations with plants.
Ah, yeah, I get it now. So maybe Prince Charles has had hair replacement.
Yeah, it might have done. It wouldn't be for my farm though, because he's been doing this for years, hasn't he? I mean, maybe he's just a nut anyway. I don't know.
Crystal Desprez says, "Put Boris out to pasture," and she says, "Lol," and it is really a bit like. Obviously, I feel that your job might come to a close because he might not be Prime Minister, mightn't he?
Well, he might not be, but I mean, I got contacts out here and everywhere. I just have to see what they come up with. Who knows?
Well,
Who
yeah,
knows?
you haven't done anyone else's. This is really unusual, and I bet you know, in the scientific world are sitting on the edge of their seats listening to you because I've never heard anything like this. Hair farming, that it's almost alien-like, isn't it? You know, that burrows in his skull and connects to his brain.
It's almost like a group, isn't it? Alien hair farm.
Alien hair. That's right. Yeah, it is. It is a bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
But-
Keir
but-
Starmer would come and see you, would he?
No, well, I wouldn't have him on my books anyway.
No.
He bloke don't like him.
No.
I don't like Burks, but he pays well.
Well, yeah. Well, what does he pay per hair?
Well, it's between 10 and 15,000 per hair. See,
Bloody hell. That's a
Well,
lot of money.
it's a lot of money, but there's a lot goes into it. See, there's a lot of growth and a lot of stimulation. And
They like stimulation,
you
apparently.
You should try teaching this a lot of hair how to say 2 words. It ain't easy, I tell you.
Well, I know, but how do you do that? Do you have to sit in a dark room with the hair and actually keep saying the words over and over again?
Well, you're not far off. I mean, this is probably what sends it. Doolally, that's probably why Johnson is as he is. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it's a recorded message, and it just keeps going over and over and over all the time, you know. It just keeps saying fundamental, unprecedented, fundamental, unprecedented. So, you know, so it gets embedded into their head. So when he gets planted on the Johnson, see, that's what he comes out with more than anything else.
So does his other hair that he has that's already burrowed into his follicles in his head that are connected to his brain, do they all have other words that they say?
No, they can see a lot of the ones we can learn those 2 words fairly quickly. If they learn it within the first couple of hours, yeah, we normally send them off. Get the others and they get put in reserve. And they get those 2 sent off to him because they're self-learning hair, you see.
Yeah. It's
You
remarkable.
can tell these are Yeah, so they're self-learning, so they pick up all sorts of things, you see. The other hair we do as well for him is the party hair. Oh, that's fun.
Party hair.
Yeah, when he puts that party hair on, he's all over the bloody place. You know, he's singing, he's jumping about.
You don't just put it on his head, I presume.
Well, yeah, he's you know, when he's got that on, he's like a party animal. But I mean, ain't going no further with that because I mean that's secret. That is
Yeah,
what he gets
well,
up to.
we'll keep that a secret, don't we? We won't tell anyone. But you know what interests me is the fact that when you see him, and obviously when you watched him on TV in one of his press briefings where he's got his cronies with him and that as well. He's standing there, and that's probably why he can't answer any questions.
Well, it could well be, you know, because
that must be another thing you teach him is to say,
well,
can you answer that? Can you answer that? Can you answer that?
Because his hair hasn't been programmed, you see, for general public and people like that to ask questions. It's not programmed for that. He's only programmed for these you know, sort of answers which nobody can understand, you know. And he's programmed. His hair is programmed a lot for diverting the questions. You see.
Yeah, it seems to me like it is. It's almost there to hinder all the time actually telling the truth.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has got truth hair.
Has he?
Yeah, we make, you know, we grow truth hair, but I mean that's top secret. That one is, and
when does he wear his truth hair?
Yeah, that ain't coming out for a while. That won't come out until the last 2 or 3 weeks of his I nearly said presidency, but prime ministry. You know, the last couple of weeks, then he'll have that on. You see, and then they spill the beans to everyone.
Wow, and I'm surprised you didn't do Donald Trump's hair.
No, I don't want to do that. No, that's different. You know, no, we don't want anything to do with that. He has his hair farmed over in Arizona somewhere, Phoenix, I think, somewhere over there.
And do you have other animals on your farm?
Yeah, we have goats. We have a few pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have goats.
Wow. Well, that's
we
good.
have pigs.
Well,
we have we got one cow.
Yeah. And
Daisy. Yeah.
And
about 200 hens.
Wow. And have you ever seen the hens putting strands of hair in their head, or any of the other animals?
No, I see one try to escape the pound, and it jumped onto the top of the hen's head, and the old hen was running around the field with Boris Johnson's hair on it, and that was quite funny. That was.
It?
We were laughing our heads off. We were.
What did it say?
It didn't say anything because it's a bit different, isn't it? Chicken. I mean.
Well, I suppose it is to Boris, yeah.
Well, yeah, the Boris' hair probably, he probably found his, I don't know, his head different texture or something like that. The chickens.
Well, yeah, and I suppose the chicken's brain's quite small in comparison to Boris Johnson's, but you could beg to differ on that, actually.
Well, yeah, you could, but even so, it was quite funny. It did have a little bit. It did communicate a little bit because the chicken then jumped up on the bike and started riding the bike around the field. So obviously it got into his head, into the chicken's head a little bit. The hair did, but not a great deal because he fell off.
God, a chicken riding a bike, that must be quite remarkable.
It was a remarkable sight, I tell you.
I mean, if you film that, you could make a lot of money out of that.
But people will just say that it's photoshopped or whatever,
well,
won't they?
That's true.
So people won't believe it. They'll have to come down there and see it.
Mm.
But that is another branch, another avenue that we are exploring.
Yeah.
If we don't get any more work, in the coming years or something like that.
Well,
we just keep them up the air, and use it as entertainment. See, people will spend. I don't know how much money they would have to see the video to come and see these sort of things. Like, you can imagine Boris Johnson's hair on a pig's head.
Well,
what a pig might like,
yeah, I mean, David Cameron likes pigs.
Well, I like a bit of bacon.
I'm just blown away. I've never ever spoken to a hair farmer before, and I've never spoken to somebody that grows and actually cultivates Boris Johnson's hair. I think it's quite remarkable.
Well, it is. It's a remarkable place here as well. It's quite open in the woodland, but there's electric fences and that sort of thing around. But it's down in Somerset somewhere. That's all I can tell you. I'm not telling you where else.
No, of course you can't, because it's top secret, isn't it? So.
Well, of course it's top secret. Yeah.
And obviously out in the wilds, I mean, you're not really affected by anything that's going on in reality, are you?
Not really, no. We just shut ourselves in, we just don't worry about watching the news or anything. These are just contracts, we got with Boris Johnson and his crew, and
wow.
Don't ask me what to his original hair. I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but we do. Most of the hair gets sold off to local farmers, to put in their manure and that sort of thing. Some of it we send off to sell to local builders to put it in their cement.
Right. Oh, well, wattle and daub.
Like fortified. To fortify the cement, when they're building houses, I suppose.
Wow. And then you could be in a room with walls that do talk.
Well, yeah, all blubber.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you get some paranormal investigators and that coming around and they're saying, look, can hear these walls talking.
And they are.
They do one of those EVP things, It's like, is there anyone here? Look fundamental. Unprecedented.
Oh,
come up with their EVP thingy or something.
you almost sounded like him then as well. which is
Well,
scary.
you hear a lot of it, see, down where we are. I mean, it can almost drive you crazy.
Yeah, I bet it can. Well, yeah, because
So
that's all you're thinking about.
Because as soon as they come out of the Johnson School of Excellence, they've learnt those 2 words, and then they're scooting across the farmyard, and that's all they're saying.
Oh dear.
They go out with their exercise, you see.
Oh, I have never. I'm just blown away, to be honest, and I'm really grateful for you to call, because it's very unusual, and never had anyone like you on before that farms hair, and you know, I'm sure that some, you might get other business from other people. You might get film stars and all sorts as well. Who knows? Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, I mean, I'd like to be doing this several years ago, because I could have put some hair on your Brenner, couldn't I?
Well, you could have done, yeah, absolutely. And obviously you could put it on your head, couldn't you?
No, I don't want any Johnson in me.
That's what he says
Good
to lots
grief.
of people. Do you want any Johnson in you? Johnson and Johnson.
No. Yeah, I don't want no Johnson and Johnson in me, no.
Well, you've been really amazing, young man, and I'm very, very kind that you called tonight, because
Well, thanks for the opportunity for me to share this. You see, you don't talk to a lot of people outside the farm.
But you don't. You talk to hares more than anything else.
Well, that's it, and they can send you a little bit loopy at times.
I can tell. Yeah,
it can be a bit hair raising. Some would say
hair raising. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I'm sure we'll speak to each other in the future, particularly if Boris actually isn't there anymore, because then he'll wear his crazy hair, won't he?
Well, yeah, where he's out of town, you know, countryside hair, I expect, because I'm sure he's got somewhere out in the countryside where he's got a house where he'll probably spend the rest of his days mumbling to himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've been fantastic tonight. I'm very, very grateful. And
it's been great speaking to you.
And we will speak again very soon.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
And thank you very much for ringing.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. There he is. There's a man that farms Boris Johnson hair. We are coming to the end of the show. And my thanks to everyone that's on the show tonight, including Chris was a spree, Nikki that was on, and of course Patrick Gamble, and the amazing guest there that's actually farming Boris Johnson's hair. Linda Bassett has just joined us. Hello, Linda. You are looking very smart tonight, Mr. D. Thank you very much. You know, what can I say? We talked about many, many different things. That's what the Inview is about. We will be back on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we're going to be looking at the country of Turkestan. We're also going to look at Elon Musk and COVID camps and aliens that do exist. And we're going to look at the US Space Force as well, and whatever else is in the news. That's on Wednesday. You have all a fantastic, amazing rest of the week out there. Fantastic to join me. Join me again on Wednesday for Inview Connect, where it's your show and you can contact us. And I look forward to seeing you then. And I'm very grateful for everyone that's taken part, comment, and everything else on the show tonight. Thank you very much, and I will see you all on Wednesday. Good night.